She accidentally said her co-worker's name instead of mine before our wedding. I disappeared and never looked back. A true story of betrayal, heartbreak, and the life-changing decision that shocked everyone. Have you ever had one of those moments where a single sentence changes everything you thought you knew about your life? Where 3 little words can shatter years of love, trust, and dreams in an instant. That's exactly what happened to me on what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. My name is Ryan, and this is the story of how my bride accidentally revealed the truth about her feelings just hours before our wedding and why I made the decision to disappear without looking back. The perfect love story, or so I thought. Let me start from the beginning. I met Jessica 5 years ago at a mutual friend's birthday party. She was working as a marketing coordinator at a tech startup, and I was a software engineer at a different company across town. The moment I saw her laughing with a group of friends, her dark hair catching the light and her smile illuminating the entire room, I knew I had to talk to her. Our first conversation lasted 3 hours. We talked about everything: our careers, our dreams, our fears, our favorite movies, and our worst dating disasters. She was intelligent, funny, and had this incredible way of making me feel like I was the most interesting person in the world when she looked at me. I can't believe we've never met before, she said as the party was winding down. It feels like I've known you forever. I felt the same way. There was this instant connection, this feeling that we just fit together perfectly. We started dating immediately, and everything felt natural and right. Jessica was ambitious and driven, but also warm and caring. She remembered little details about my work projects, brought me soup when I was sick, and never made me feel bad about my introverted tendencies or my obsession with obscure sci-fi movies. After 6 months, she moved in with me. After 2 years, we adopted a rescue dog together, a golden retriever mix named Cooper, who became our practice baby. After 3 years, we bought a house in the suburbs with a big backyard for Cooper and room for the family we planned to start. Everything was perfect. We rarely fought, we supported each other's careers, and we had this easy, comfortable relationship that all our friends envied. My parents adored her, her parents welcomed me like a son, and everyone kept asking when we were going to get married. The truth was, I'd been thinking about it for months. I was just waiting for the perfect moment. The proposal that perfect moment came during a weekend trip to the mountains for our 4th anniversary. We were hiking to our favorite lookout point, the same trail we'd conquered on our second date. When we reached the spot where you could see the entire valley spread out below, "This never gets old," Jessica said, settling onto the rock where we always sat to rest. "Neither do you," I replied, and she laughed at what she called my cheesy romantic lines, but then I got down on one knee and her laughter turned to gasps, and then tears as I pulled out the ring I'd been carrying for 2 months, waiting for this exact moment. "Jessica Marie Campbell," I said, my voice shaking with nerves and excitement, "you are my best friend, my greatest love, and my perfect partner in everything. Will you marry me?" She said yes before I even finished the question, throwing her arms around me and nearly knocking us both off the rock. We spent the rest of the afternoon planning our future, talking about the wedding, about kids, about growing old together in our little house with Cooper and whatever other pets we'd inevitably adopt. It was, without question, the happiest day of my life up to that point. Wedding planning and red flags. The engagement period was a whirlwind of planning and preparation. Jessica threw herself into wedding planning with the same intensity she brought to everything else. She created spreadsheets, researched vendors, and turned our spare bedroom into what she called Wedding Command Central, complete with color-coded binders and a massive corkboard covered in inspiration photos. I was happy to let her take the lead on most of the planning. She had stronger opinions about flowers and centerpieces, and honestly, I just wanted to marry her. The details didn't matter to me as much as they mattered to her, but about 6 months into our engagement, I started noticing some changes in Jessica's behavior. She was working longer hours, often staying at the office until 8 or 9 at night. When I asked about it, she said her company was going through a restructuring and everyone was pulling extra weight. There's this new project manager who's been brought in to streamline operations, she explained one evening when she came home particularly late. His name is Derek, and he's really shaking things up. It's stressful, but I think it's going to be good for the company in the long run. Derek, that was the first time I heard the name that would eventually change everything. Over the next few months, Derek's name came up more and more in Jessica's work stories. Derek had implemented a new client management system Derek had secured. A major new contract, Derek had taken the team out for drinks to celebrate a successful product launch. Derek had such innovative ideas about digital marketing strategies. At first, I was happy that Jessica had found a mentor figure at work. She'd always been ambitious, and having someone in leadership who recognized her potential seemed like a great opportunity for her career growth, but gradually I started to feel like Derek was becoming a bigger presence in our relationship than I was comfortable with. Jessica would get texts from him on weekends about urgent work matters. She started attending more after-work events, claiming they were important for networking and team building. She even canceled a few of our date nights because Derek had called last-minute meetings or team dinners. He's just very hands-on. Jessica would say when I expressed mild concern. He wants to make sure everyone is aligned on the new initiatives. It's actually really refreshing to work for someone who cares so much about the team's success. I tried to be understanding. Jessica had worked hard to get where she was in her career, and I didn't want to be the kind of fiancé who got jealous about work relationships, but something about the way she talked about Derek with this admiration and excitement that I hadn't heard in her voice when she talked about work before made me uneasy. # the bachelorette party inside and first. Real red flag came during Jessica's bachelorette party weekend in Las Vegas, about 2 months before our wedding. She went with her maid of honor, her sister, and 4 of her closest friends for what was supposed to be a fun, relaxing girls' trip. I didn't hear from her much during the weekend, which I expected. She was supposed to be having fun with her friends, not checking in with me every few hours. But when she came home Sunday night, something was off. She seemed distracted and almost guilty, avoiding eye contact and giving me shorter answers than usual when I asked about the trip. "How was Vegas?" I asked as she unpacked her suitcase. "Good," she said, not looking up from folding her clothes. "Really good. We had fun. What did you guys do?" "Hit the shows, do some gambling." "Yeah, all of that. The usual Vegas stuff," she paused, then added, "Oh, and we ran into some people from my work at one of the casinos." Small world, right? People from work in Vegas. Derek and a couple of the other guys were there for some kind of bachelor party weekend too. We all ended up hanging out for a while on Saturday night. My stomach dropped. Derek had been at Jessica's bachelorette party weekend, and she was just casually mentioning it now, like it was no big deal. "That's interesting," I said carefully. "Did you know they were going to be there?" "No, of course not," Jessica said quickly. "It was just a coincidence. Vegas isn't that big, and there are only so many places to go," but something about her tone didn't ring true. And when I asked her sister later how the weekend went, she gave me an odd look and said, "You should probably ask Jessica about that." I didn't push it further, but the seed of doubt was planted. .. The final weeks as our wedding date approached, Jessica's work schedule became even more demanding. She was staying late almost every night, working weekends, and seemed constantly stressed about various projects and deadlines. "I can't wait for the honeymoon," she said one evening as we reviewed the final guest count for the reception. 2 weeks with no work emails, no meetings, no Derek calling at all hours about crisis management. She said it like it was a complaint, but there was something in her voice that suggested she might actually miss those calls. A week before the wedding, Jessica's behavior reached a new level of strange. She was jumpy, constantly checking her phone, and seemed to be having whispered phone conversations that she'd cut short whenever I walked into the room. Everything okay? I asked one evening after she'd quickly ended yet another hushed phone call. Just work stuff, she said automatically. You know how it is with big projects, but I didn't know how it was because Jessica had never been secretive about work before. She'd always been happy to share details about her projects, her colleagues, and her daily challenges. This new level of privacy felt like a wall being built between us. The night before our wedding, during the rehearsal dinner, Jessica seemed particularly anxious. She kept checking her phone during the toasts, and I caught her texting someone while my best man was giving his speech about our relationship. Who are you texting? I whispered, just confirming some last-minute vendor stuff for tomorrow. She whispered back, but she was typing too fast and too intensely for it to be a simple confirmation message. That night, we followed tradition and stayed in separate locations. I went back to our house, and Jessica stayed at her maid of honor's apartment. As I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling and trying to calm my pre-wedding nerves, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong, but I told myself it was just cold feet, just the normal anxiety that comes before such a big life change. Tomorrow we would be married and everything would go back to normal. I had no idea how wrong I was. The wedding day morning or wedding was scheduled for 4 p.m. at a beautiful historic venue downtown with a reception to follow in the same location. I woke up early, around 7 a.m., feeling a mix of excitement and nerves that I assumed was perfectly normal for a groom on his wedding day. My groomsmen arrived at 9 a.m. to help me get ready and keep me calm. We had a relaxed morning planned breakfast, some casual time hanging out, then getting dressed around 2 p.m. to head to the venue. Around 11 a.m., I decided to call Jessica to check in and tell her I loved her. I knew she was probably busy with hair and makeup, but I wanted to hear her voice before the ceremony. Her maid of honor, Sarah, answered Jessica's phone. Hey, Ryan. Sarah said, sounding cheerful but slightly frazzled. Jessica's in the middle of getting her hair done right now. Can I have her call you back? Sure, I said. Just tell her I love her and I can't wait to see her in a few hours. Will do. She's going to look absolutely stunning. You're a lucky guy. I hung up feeling good. Everything was proceeding as planned. An hour later, my phone rang. It was Jessica, calling from what sounded like a busy salon. Hey, handsome, she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. Sarah said you called. I love you too. How's everything going over there? I asked. Good, really good. A little chaotic, but good. The hair is done and looks amazing, and we're about to start on makeup. I should be ready right on time. I can't wait to see you, I said. I can't believe in a few hours we're going to be married. I know, she said, and there was something in her voice that I couldn't quite identify. It's crazy to think about. Hey, I should probably get back to the makeup chair. I'll see you at the altar. Okay. I love you. Jessica. I love you too. She hung up, and I felt that flutter of excitement in my stomach. In 5 hours, I would be married to the woman of my dreams. The moment everything changed at 2 p.m., my groomsmen and I started getting dressed. I put on my tuxedo, fixed my tie, and looked at myself in the mirror. I looked like a groom. I looked happy. I looked ready to start the next chapter of my life. We arrived at the venue at 3 p.m. for photos and final preparations. The place looked incredible. Jessica had done an amazing job with all the planning. Everything was elegant and beautiful, exactly what we dreamed of. At 3:30, I was standing in the groom's ready room with my best man, going over the rings one more time and trying to calm my nerves when my phone rang. It was Jessica. Hey, I said, surprised. Aren't we supposed to have our first look in like 10 minutes? Is everything okay? Yeah, everything's fine, she said, but her voice sounded strained. I just I wanted to call and tell you something before we do this, okay? I said, my heart rate picking up. What's going on? I just want you to know that I love you so much, and I'm so excited to marry you today. You're the most amazing man I know, and I can't wait to be your wife. I smiled, feeling my nerves settle. I love you too, Jessica, more than anything. I know this is silly, she continued, but I've been so nervous about today, and I just needed to hear your voice and remind myself of how lucky I am. Derek was right, I was overthinking everything. My blood turned to ice. What? I said. There was a long pause, then Jessica's voice, smaller and more panicked. What did I just say? You said Derek was right. About what? Why are you talking to Derek about our wedding? Another pause, longer this time. Ryan. Jessica, why are you talking to Derek about being nervous about marrying me? It's not what you think, she said quickly. He was just giving me advice about wedding day nerves because his sister got married last year and now stop, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Just stop because suddenly everything clicked into place. The late nights, the secret phone calls, the bachelorette party in Vegas, the constant texting, the way she said his name just now, not like she was talking about a work colleague, but like she was talking about someone whose opinion mattered to her on the most personal level. Ryan, please let me explain. How long? I asked. How long what? How long have you been in love with Derek? The silence that followed told me everything I needed to know. The realization, it's not what you think, Jessica said finally, her voice breaking. I'm not in love with him. He's just ... He's been a good friend during a stressful time, and, Jessica, I interrupted, you just called your coworker for advice about marrying me. 30 minutes before our wedding, and you said his name like he's the person whose opinion matters most to you. That's not true, is it? I asked because I've been thinking about this for months. The way you talk about him, the way you light up when you mention his name, the way you've been pulling away from me. Tell me the truth. Are you in love with Derek? The longest pause of my life followed. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line, could picture her in her wedding dress, probably looking at herself in the mirror while deciding whether to lie to me again. I don't know. She whispered finally. Those 3 words hit me like a physical blow. You don't know. I love you. Ryan. I do. But Derek and I have this connection, this understanding, and I've been confused about my feelings, and I thought getting married would help me figure it out. You thought marrying me would help you figure out if you're in love with someone. Elsie, that's not how I meant it. That's exactly how you meant it. My voice was eerily calm now. You were going to marry me while being in love with another man, hoping that somehow saying vows would magically fix your confusion. Ryan, please, are you sleeping with him? No, she said immediately. I would never cheat on you. I swear to you, nothing physical has happened, but you want it too. Another devastating pause. I don't know, she whispered again, the decisione. Hung up the phone and stared at the wall for what felt like hours, but was probably only a few minutes. My best man was saying something to me, but I couldn't hear him over the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Everything made sense now. All the signs I'd ignored, all the red flags I'd explained away, all the times I'd told myself I was being paranoid or jealous. Jessica was emotionally involved with another man, and she'd been planning to marry me anyway, thinking she could just push those feelings aside and make our marriage work through sheer force of will. But that's not how love works. That's not how marriage works, and I couldn't spend the rest of my life wondering if my wife was thinking about someone else every time she kissed me. Ryan. My best man said, putting a hand on my shoulder. What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. I looked at him, this man who'd been my friend since college, who'd helped me pick out Jessica's engagement ring, who'd spent the morning joking around and making sure I was ready for the biggest day of my life. I can't do this, I said. What? Do you mean cold feet? Dude, everyone gets nervous before. No, I said, my voice getting stronger. I mean, I can't marry her. The wedding is off. What? Ryan. What are you talking about? There are 150 people here. The ceremony starts in 20 minutes. Then I need to go tell them there isn't going to be a ceremony. I walked out of the groom's ready room and found the wedding coordinator, a pleasant woman in her 50s who'd been helping us navigate the day's timeline. "Excuse me," I said, my voice surprisingly calm. "I need to make an announcement to the guests." "The wedding is canceled." She stared at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language. "I'm sorry, what?" "The wedding is canceled. I need you to tell everyone." "To go home." "Mr. Harrison, I don't understand. Is this some kind of joke?" "The ceremony is supposed to start in 15 minutes. It's not a joke," I said. "There isn't going to be a ceremony. Please tell the guests that due to unforeseen circumstances, the wedding has been canceled and we apologize for any inconvenience." The escape. What happened next was a blur of confused voices, ringing phones, and increasingly frantic questions that I couldn't and wouldn't answer. My groomsmen were trying to get me to explain what was happening. The wedding coordinator was trying to figure out if this was some kind of misunderstanding. My parents were being summoned from the main reception area, but I couldn't deal with any of it. I couldn't stand there and explain to 150 people that my bride was in love with someone else. I couldn't face the questions, the sympathy, the inevitable gossip that would follow. So I did the only thing that made sense to me in that moment. I left. I walked out the back entrance of the venue, got in my car, and drove away. I turned off my phone, pointed my car toward the highway, and just started driving. I had no plan, no destination in mind. I just knew I needed to get as far away from that wedding venue as possible before anyone could find me and try to talk me into going back. For the first hour, I drove in complete silence, my mind completely blank. It was like I was in shock, unable to process what had just happened or what I was doing. Somewhere around the 2-hour mark, the full reality of the situation hit me. I had just walked away from my wedding. I had left Jessica standing at the altar, or more accurately, getting ready to walk down an aisle to meet a groom who was no longer there. I had abandoned 150 guests who had traveled from all over the country to celebrate our marriage. I pulled over at a rest stop and sat in my car, still wearing my tuxedo, and cried harder than I had since I was a child. The aftermath. When I finally turned my phone back on 3 hours later, I had 47 missed calls and over 100 text messages. Messages from Jessica, from my parents, from my groomsmen, from her family, from friends and relatives who'd been at the venue and wanted to know what was happening. I scrolled through a few of them. "Jessica, Ryan, please come back. We can work this out. I love you. Please don't do this. My mom. Honey, whatever's wrong, we can fix it. Please call me. Everyone's worried sick. My best man. Dude, where are you? Jessica's in hysterics. What the hell happened? Jessica's sister. I don't know what my sister did, but please come back and talk to her. She's devastated." I turned the phone off again. I drove for 6 more hours, finally stopping at a cheap motel outside a small town whose name I didn't even notice. I checked in, still wearing my tuxedo, ignoring the curious looks from the desk clerk in that generic motel room, surrounded by the smell of industrial cleaning products and the sound of the highway outside. I finally allowed myself to think about what I'd done. I had walked away from a 5-year relationship. I had humiliated Jessica in front of everyone we knew. I had wasted thousands of dollars on a wedding that never happened. I had hurt my parents, her parents, and all the people who cared about us, but I had also saved myself from a marriage that would have been built on a foundation of lies and confusion. I had refused to be someone's second choice, someone's backup plan while they figured out their feelings for someone else. The phone call. Next morning, I finally called my parents to let them know I was safe. The conversation was one of the hardest I've ever had. "Ryan," my mom said, her voice thick, people with tears. "What happened?" "Jessica won't tell us anything except that you had a fight. She's been asking us to call you, begging us to convince you to come home." "I can't come home, Mom. Not yet." "Why?" What could possibly be so bad that you'd walk away from your wedding? I told them everything. About Derek, about the phone call, about Jessica's confession that she didn't know if she was in love with someone else. My parents listened in stun. Silence. Oh, honey, my mom said when I finished, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Neither did I, until yesterday. What are you going to do? I don't know, I admitted. I just know I can't go back and pretend this didn't happen. I can't marry someone who's in love with someone else. Where are you? Somewhere in Colorado. I'm safe. I just need some time. To think, my dad got on the phone. Son, I understand why you're hurt, and I understand why you left. But you're going to have to come back eventually and deal with this. I know, I said. Just not yet. Life on the roadie spent the next 2 weeks driving around the western United States, staying in cheap motels and truck stops, living off gas station food and trying to figure out what to do with my life. During that time, I ignored dozens of calls and messages from Jessica. I finally listened to one of her voicemails, and it nearly broke my heart all over again. Ryan, please call me back, she said, her voice hoarse from crying. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, but please don't throw away everything we have. Because of my confusion, I love you. I want to marry you. Derek doesn't mean anything to me compared to what we have. Please come home so we can fix this. But that's exactly the problem. She wanted to marry me despite being confused about her feelings for another man. She wanted to fix our relationship by pretending her emotional affair had never happened. That's not how healing works. That's not how trust works. The new beginning. After 2 weeks of soul searching and highway therapy, I made a decision that surprised everyone, including myself. I wasn't going back, not to Jessica, not to our house, not to our life together. I called my boss and quit my job. I called a realtor and put our house on the market. I called a lawyer and started the process of officially ending our engagement and dividing our shared assets. I rented a small apartment in Denver, a city I'd fallen in love with during my wandering, and started looking for a new job. I adopted a dog from a local shelter, a border collie mix named Scout, who quickly became my constant companion and source of comfort. It wasn't easy. Starting over at 31, in a new city where I knew no one, was terrifying and lonely. There were nights when I questioned my decision, when I wondered if I'd made a huge mistake by walking away from someone who claimed to love me. But every time I had those doubts, I remembered the way Jessica had said Derek's name. Not like a colleague or a friend, but like someone whose opinion mattered more than mine on the most important day of our lives. The closure. 6 months after the Nung wedding, Jessica found my new address and wrote me a letter. In it, she told me that she'd quit her job and ended all contact with Derek. She'd started therapy to work on her issues with commitment and emotional boundaries. She begged me to give our relationship another chance. I know I hurt you, she wrote. I know I betrayed your trust in the worst possible way. But I also know that what we had was real and worth fighting for. I was confused and scared, and I handled everything wrong, but I'm not confused anymore. I choose you, Ryan. I will always choose you. I read the letter 3 times, and I felt sad for both of us. Sad for her because she was clearly in pain. Sad for me because I could see glimpses of the woman I'd fallen in love with in her words, but I also felt sure of my decision in a way I hadn't before. The problem wasn't just that Jessica had developed feelings for Derek. The problem was that she'd been willing to marry me while harboring those feelings, hoping they would just go away after we said our vows. She'd been prepared to build our marriage on a foundation of unresolved emotions and unaddressed problems. That's not love. That's convenience. Real love doesn't require you to suppress your feelings for someone else. Real love doesn't ask you to choose between 2 people. When you truly love someone, there is no choice to make because there's no competition. I wrote back to Jessica, wishing her well and telling her I hoped she found happiness, but that I wouldn't be changing my mind about our relationship. 3 Years later, it's been 3 years since I walked away from my wedding, and I can honestly say it was the best decision I ever made. My life in Denver has become everything I didn't know I was looking for. I found a job at a tech startup that challenges me professionally and gives me the flexibility to pursue my interests. I've made good friends, taken up hiking and rock climbing, and discovered a love for photography that has become a serious hobby. Most importantly, I met someone new. Her name is Emma, and she's a veterinarian who rescued me from a particularly embarrassing situation involving Scout and an unfortunate encounter with a porcupine. She's kind, funny, straightforward, and completely devoted to the people and animals she loves. When Emma tells me she loves me, I never doubt that I'm the only person she's thinking about. When she talks about our future together, I know she's not settling or hoping her feelings will sort themselves out over time. She chose me clearly and completely, the way Jessica never could. We're getting married next month, a small ceremony with just our closest family and friends, no elaborate planning, no stress, no confusion. Just to people who are absolutely certain they want to spend their lives together. # final thoughts. People sometimes ask me if I regret walking away from my wedding. They wonder if I should have tried to work things out with Jessica if I gave up too easily on a 5-year relationship. My answer is always the same. I regret that it took me so long to recognize the signs. I regret that I ignored my instincts for months when I sensed something was wrong. I regret that Jessica felt she had to hide her confusion instead of being honest with me earlier, but I don't regret leaving, not for a single second. That moment when Jessica accidentally said Derek's name was a gift, even though it didn't feel like one at the time. It was the truth breaking through all the lies and pretense and forced optimism. It was reality demanding to be acknowledged. I could have stayed and tried to rebuild our relationship. I could have gone through with the wedding and hoped that marriage would somehow fix the fundamental problems between us. I could have spent years wondering if my wife was thinking about someone else every time she said she loved me. Instead, I chose to believe that I deserved better. I chose to believe that somewhere out there was someone who would love me completely and without reservation. I chose to bet on the possibility of real love instead of settling for a relationship built on compromise and confusion. It was the scariest decision I've ever made, and the best one too. Sometimes walking away isn't giving up. Sometimes it's the bravest thing you can do. And sometimes, when you have the courage to let go of something that's wrong for you, you create space for something that's absolutely right.